this is Gina. I'm going to show you how to make this necklace today. I've been messing around with square stitch and I decided that I wanted to make a necklace out of it, and this is what I came up with. Now, in my original design that I started making, I always make a little miniature. The side of this isn't finished, but I made a small one and I did not put a drop on it, so I wasn't going to put a drop on it. So in our beginning material list, I do not include the crystal drop, but this is what I used. I used Swarovski clear crystal drop, and it is 15 millimeters long and 7 millimeters wide, 14 or 15 millimeters long, and about 7 or 8 millimeters wide. That's what it is. And you can get these online. It's just a top drilled crystal drop. You can use a smaller one or a bigger one. It doesn't matter, but that's what I used. And so if you decide that you would like to have the look with the drop, then you will want to have one of these also. If you decide that you do not want to have a drop, because it's really pretty without it too, then you can just do the embellishment that we do on all the rest of the units and move on. But I wanted to bring that straight out since it's not in my material list on the next section of video. However, I will put it in the drop down menu with the rest of the material list. So in the description box beneath the video player, you'll get a full description of the materials. And I will include the drop. And this is what this looks like. It's really pretty. Let me get you really close so you can see the units and see how pretty they are. And that's what that looks like. And of course, we just loop the outside pretty little crystals, and that's what that looks like. So let's go ahead and look at our material list and get started. Okay, for this project today, you will need 15-0, 8-0, and 11-0 seed beads. All three of mine are Toho. My 15-0 is the galvanized permanent finished Starlight. So it's a gold tone, bright gold, in the Toho line. Then my 8-0 seed bead is brown iris. My 11-0 seed bead is antique golden bronze. I will be using two colors of Swarovski bicone crystals. This one is a rose colored and this one is clear. You will see on my pad during the video that I had some purple ones out. I was going to use purple, but they don't show up very well against my 8-0s, so I have changed it to this rose color. I'm also using 8-pound Fireline in the smoke color. You can also use 6-pound Fireline. If you want to use a size 12 beading needle with your 15-0s, I recommend 6-pound Fireline. You can use an you can use a size 10 beading needle with the 8-pound. Sometimes you can also use a 12, but you have to really squeeze the end of your thread to get it through your needle. So I leave that up to you, whether you want to use a size 10 or 12 beading needle, 6 or 8-pound Fireline. If you're using dark beads like mine, I recommend you use a smoke color because this is a very thready stitch, and even though I'm using a clear Swarovski, I'm still going to use the smoke Fireline. I'm also going to use a toggle clasp. So go ahead and thread onto your needle at least a full wingspan of thread. You will need to extend your Fireline during this project, and I will link a video below that will show you how to do that. If you do not know how to do it, it will be in the description box below the video. Let's go ahead and get started. Okay, to start this project, I'm going to put it on a different color 8-0 seed bead. You can use any bead you want, but I'm going to just use this silver seed bead for my stop bead. So I'm just going to put it on my needle, bring it all the way down to the end of the thread. You don't have to leave a long tail, just a couple of inches to hold on to, and then go back through the bead on the tail side and just pull your thread through. And this will loop around the bead and create a stop bead for you. Then to start this project, you're going to pick up 6 of your 8-0 seed beads that you're going to use for the project today onto your needle. And you're going to drop these down to your stop bead. Just like in the last project I posted, we are going to be doing square stitch. After doing that project, I've figured out a few different things to do with it, so I'm going to show you one of them today. Now, to do square stitch, you're going to hold them on your fingers like so and balance them with your thumb. You're going to pick up one of your 8/0 seed beads. You're going to go down through the bottom of the top bead on your thread here. So through the bottom, so actually you're going up through the bottom. And you're going to pull your thread through until that bead lays next to the bead already on your thread. And then you're going to go down through your new bead. As you pull your thread through, put your thumb and your finger over it, and then give a small tug as you get to the end to tighten it. Then pick up another bead. Go up through the bottom of the next bead on your original strand of beads that you put on your thread here. So go up through it, and then push your needle through, holding the beads through your between your fingers, and keep pulling that thread until that bead comes up. Now it may be crooked, that's okay. You're going to cross over and go through the top of that bead. And then you're going to pull your thread through while holding your beads between your fingers. And tug. Just make sure that that thread goes between your beads. And again, pick up another 8/0 seed bead. Go up through the bottom of the next bead on your original strand here. Push your needle through, pull your thread through until the bead comes up next to the bead you're threading through, and then go down through your new bead right here. Now the first strand is a little awkward because everything moves around and it just kind of looks clumsy and you feel kind of clumsy doing it, but that's okay. Just go slowly and they will line up pretty nicely for you. Then pick up another, go through the bottom of the next bead, push your needle through, pull your thread through slowly until you anchor that bead next to the one you're threading through, right there. And then come down through the top of the new bead you just put on. Pull your thread through, make sure the thread goes down between the beads like so, and then give a little tug. Pick up your next bead, go into the bottom of the next bead on your original strand. Pull the thread through, and then if it's all crooked like this, it's okay. Just go through the top of it like so, and as you do that, it'll straighten out. Pull your thread through and anchor it next to the one that you started in, or the one that you're anchoring it to, basically. Pick up your next bead. Go through the very last bead, like so. Pull your thread through. Pull it up next to the bead you're coming out of, and then go down through that new bead. I'm keeping my thumb off it so you can see how it threads through. Then the thread pulls down between them, and then you can just give it a little tug. Now pull off your stop bead. Now the next part of a square stitch is to anchor them together nicer and secure them. So you're coming out of this last bead here. You're going to go into the bead next to it and all the beads on top of that bead. So you're going to go through this entire column. Make sure you don't miss any. Hold on to them and pull your thread through. Watch your tail so it doesn't get tangled in, and just pull your thread until it's all the way through. Give it a tiny tug, and then secure it, and then go into the next column. So we're coming up here. We're going to go down through all of the beads on the column next to that one. Once you're through all the beads, pull your thread through and give it a tiny tug. And you don't want to give a really tight tug. You want no slack. You want decent tension, but you don't want really tight tension because later we're going to be sewing back through these beads. Now, we're going to turn this piece over so that this tail thread is sticking up here. And we're just going to go ahead and thread through all of these beads on this side again. And then we're going to thread through 3 beads on this side. We're going to work our way down now. So what we're going to be doing with this stitch is increasing and decreasing. This first row, we have 6 beads, and then we anchored the 6 beads on the 2 rows together. Now we want to anchor to these 3 beads, and then we'll build more beads this way. So what we're going to be doing is creating steps down. So what we're going to do now is we're coming out of this 3rd bead. We're going to build a square stitch from this 3rd bead. So pick up a bead and then go into the opposite side from which your thread is coming out of, right here, and that bead, and pull your new bead down next to it, like so. Then come through the top of your new bead, put your thumb over it, pull your thread through, hold it in place, and give it a tiny tug. And now you have a nice anchored bead. Now pick up another 8/0 seed bead, go through the bottom of the next bead here. Just go at an angle like I did, come through the outside of the beads and angle through, and you'll get through fine. Pull your thread through, and pull that bead up next to the one you just put on, right underneath it, and then go through the top of that new bead. Pull your thread through while holding the beads between your fingers and give a small tuck, like so. Pick up another 8/0 seed bead. Go into your very last bead from the bottom and pull. Bring that bead up next to the one you're coming out of, and then go down through it. And just to make things a little easier, I'm going to turn this over like so, just so you can see what I'm doing better, and so my beads stack better. So I just turned it over, and now I'm going to pick up 3 more 8/0 seed beads, because we decreased here, we're going to increase here. So we're going to pick up 3 beads and drop them down to the beads that we just anchored onto our first unit, like so. Now pick up an 8/0 seed bead. Hold these beads, balance them on your fingers, like so. Pick up your 8/0, go underneath the bottom of the bead you're coming out of, so the opposite end that you're coming out of. Put your fingers over them, squeeze them between your fingers, and pull your thread through, drawing your new bead up to the bead that you're anchoring to. Come down through your new bead. And then again, pick up another one. Go down into the bottom of the next bead in line. And like I said, this is a little awkward, but as the piece gets bigger, it gets a little bit easier to handle. So go through the bottom of this bead, pull your thread through until the bead is right next to the one that you're anchoring to, and then go through the top of it. And make sure as you do this your thread draws down between your beads. So see how it wants to go over the top? Just push it over until it goes in between, like so. And then again, pick up another one. Go into your third bead here from the bottom. Pull your new bead up until it's lying next to the one you're coming out of. Cross your thread over, go into that new bead from the top of it, push your needle down through and pull your thread through and give a small tug. And it looks kind of sloppy right now, but it won't once we do our next step. So now we're going to continue going all the way down the beads that we very first put on, so that we have 6 beads in each column we're creating. So this column now has 6 beads, this column has 3. We're going to cross over here, go up through this bead in this column, and pull. Cross your thread over, go down through your new bead. Hold on to them, pull your thread through, and give it a tug. And again, pick up an 8/0 seed bead. Go down through the bottom of the next bead here in the previous column. Pull, draw your bead up, cross your thread over, go into the top of that new bead, and pull your thread through. And then again, one more bead, pick up an 8/0, go through the bottom of your last bead, pull until your bead is drawn up, and then come through it from the top side. And this is what you should have. Now we're going to straighten these up and strengthen them by sewing through the entire columns. So we're coming out of this column here, we're going to cross over and go into all the beads in this column right here. Hold on to your beads and pull your thread through. And again, cross over, go into all the beads and pull your thread through. Now we have to do one more crossover and go through this column and then come down into this column here. Or actually, yeah, we have to do that. So go up all of these beads here, and then come out the third bead in this column right here. Because again, we're going to decrease, so we're not going to go all the way down and build from the bottom. We are going to build from the third bead up, add 3 beads, and increase on this side. So just like we did on this one, we will build another step up. Pick up an 8/0 seed bead, you're coming out of this third bead, go into the opposite side you're coming out of. And again, when you pull your thread through those, don't pull it really tight because you need to sew back through these. And we will be embellishing them. Don't make them loose and sloppy, but don't have them so tight you can't get back through them. Now go back up through your bead you just added. And again, pick up another one, go into the next bead. We're working our way up, so we'll go through the top of the bead, pull our bead down, and then go through the bottom of the bead. And again, pick up an 8/0 seed bead, go through the top of this bead, pull your bead down, and then go through the bottom of it. And secure. Pick up 3 8/0 seed beads because now we're going to increase our stitch. So drop these 3 8/0 seed beads down. Balance them between your fingers and pick up another 8/0 seed bead. Go through the bottom of your first new bead. hold it with your fingers down against your other bead so that you don't have a big division when you pull this up through. Pull your new bead through, like so, and then go down through your new bead. Once you get all the way through, give a little tug so you can tighten everything up, and then pick up another 8/0 seed bead, and then go into the bottom of your next bead, like so. Pull the bead down, and then sew through it, and tug. And continue. Go down into the next one, or up through the next one, I guess you would say. Pull your thread through, and then go down into your new bead. Pick up another 8/0 seed bead. Go up into the original 3 that you put on, right here, to create the 6 in your new strand or column you're creating. Pull your bead down, go through it. Straighten it up by giving a tug. Now my thread got caught on something, so I've got an extra thread here. Let me fix that. As I pulled through, evidently I did not get my thread to come through all the way, so I had a little loop. See if I corrected it. I think I did. So you want to watch that your thread doesn't get caught on anything. You want to make sure it guides all the way down between your beads. And then go up through the next one. Pull your bead up, and then come down through your new bead. And again, pick up another bead, go through your very last one. And then through it. Guide your thread down, give a tug. And then sew back through. So I'm coming out here, I'm going to go into the column next to the one I'm coming out of. And make sure you get through all your beads and pull your thread through. Give a tiny tug and then cross over and go down through the column you just created. Now we have to do that one more time so we can get to our third bead. So we're going to cross over, go into our first column here, and then go down 3 beads. And we're going to continue doing this, decreasing here, increasing here. And we're going to do that until we have 10 units. So I'm counting each 2 columns connected together as a unit. So 1, 2, 3. We have 3 so far. We're going to continue building these until we have 10 of them. Then we will be back. Okay, so I have made my 10 units. I have now positioned it to where my tail is up here. This will be my most center unit, the one that I just made. So our focal piece will come down this way, and then we'll work back up this way to make the V. Now I'm coming out of this column of beads right here, the last column I just secured. So once I put it on, I sewed through, and then I came back up, just like you do for your last stitch. But on this one, I want to start building back up this way, and my thread will be coming out the wrong way if I just sew through. So what I need to do is I need to cross over and just go through this top bead here. So I'm coming out of this one, I'm going to cross over and go through this top bead right here. Pull your thread gently so that you don't pull your unit out of shape as you do this. And then you're just going to cross over and go through 2 beads on your new column. That way you're now coming out of the 3rd bead, and you can again start working your way up your piece like so. You're just going to pick up your next bead and add to the 3rd bead here, And we're going to start working our way up this way now. So I'll pick up my next 8-0, go into the next 8-0 on the column. Oops, get there. The column I just created, and work my way up. And then again, pick up another 8-0 seed bead. That's a funny one. Let me get another one. And go through the top one. And then come through my bead. And again, I will pick up 3 8-0 seed beads, drop them down to my piece. Whoops, sorry, I'm out of frame. Let me get in frame a little bit here. So I've just sewn my last one on, dropped my new 3 8-0 seed beads down, just as I've been doing, and now I'm going to begin to build another unit, or another column to my unit. So I will go through the top bead, come down through my new bead, just like we've been doing, pick up another 8-0 seed bead, go into the next one, here, pull, cross over, make sure my thread goes down in between my beads, give a tug, and continue. Same thing that I showed you for the other side of the necklace. Just now we're working down this way instead of building up. Finish this unit, and then we will begin another unit, and we will make 9 units this time on this side. So our 10th unit that we made when we created the other side of our necklace will be the center unit. We won't count it. We'll just count 9 units up as we build these. Okay, so oops, I accidentally came through this bead. Don't want to do that. Alright, so I've made my 2 columns. I'm going to straighten them out by sewing up through. Coming out of this column, I'm going to go into this column. Sew, and then I'm going to go into this column. And sew, and then go back up through this column, sew through them. Then come down 3 here. And again, start my new column here on the 3rd bead. Go through it, pull my thread through, sew up, go through it, sew up through my new one, and again, sew up through the new one, and then pick up 3 beads, drop them down. Oops, I'm getting my beads everywhere. And then pick up an 8-0. Hold those beads between your fingers. You have to now balance the necklace, so just balance it over your fingers. And then hold on to your new beads and begin your next column. You can scoot them around and arrange them as you need to, like so. And just continue, just like you did the other side. When we have our 9 units on this side, we will come back and we will begin the embellishments. Let me show you what it looks like so far. Whoops. This one's messy right now, but it won't be. So this is what it looks like so far. And we'll be back in a few minutes and we will continue from there. Okay, so as you can see, I have finished my second half of my necklace. I did my 9 units, and I am now coming out of the column right here after securing my square stitch with my securing stitch. So I'm coming out right here, and we're going to begin our embellishments. Now at this point you should have a nice long length of thread. If you do not, you may want to extend at this point just to make sure that you have enough thread to do your embellishments. We're going to use 15 O's, and sometimes an extension can be difficult to pass through the 15 O's. So I'm going to start with my rose-colored Swarovski crystals and 15 O's. So I'm going to pick up a 15 O seed bead, and I am going to pick up a crystal and a 15 O seed bead right here. I'm coming out of this column right there. Let's get a little closer. I am going to go down 3 beads. So I'm going to count the one I'm coming out of. 1, 2, 3. Go into this 3rd bead right here, and then back up all 3 of them, like so. And then I'm going to pull this crystal down by pulling my thread through. And that's what you should have, just like that. And then you're going to pick up a 15 O seed bead, and you're going to go into the next column. So we're coming out of this column here of 8 O's. We're going to go down 3 in the next column. So after you put on your crystal, you always want to go into the next column first, and then pull your thread through, and then pick up a 15 O seed bead and go up through the crystal. Pull the 15 O down, pick up a 15 O, and go back into that stack of 8 O's. Also go into the 3 below it. So now we're going to go through the 3 we were originally attaching to and the 3 beneath it, and pull our needle through. Make sure your 15 O's lay next to each other. They're not tangled or on top of each other or anything weird. Sometimes you have to arrange them because their threads get a little tangled. So arrange that nice so it looks pretty. And then pick up a 15 O seed bead. And then pick up one of your other colored crystals, whatever you're using. I'm using clear, so I'm going to pick it up. And I'm going to pick up a 15 O. And I'm going to go back through the 3 8 O seed beads on the outside here. So back through the 3 here. And pull this down. And then I'm going to go into the column next to the column I'm exiting. So I'm exiting here. I'm going to go into 3 here. Now you can move your top embellishment back and around to get your needle through. And usually it just moves right out of the way, but of course I'm on camera so it's not going to. Let me get through. There we go. So you can usually just bend it back and you go right through, but for some reason I had a little struggle. It really shouldn't be that difficult to manipulate your needle through these beads. There's still a lot of room, and you should be able to do this fairly easily. Pick up a 15 O seed bead, go into the bicone, hold your bicone and just pull the thread through and pull the 15 O down. Pick up another 15 O seed bead, and then go into all 6 beads right here. So you're going to go through the 3 that you would be attaching to originally and through the 3 on top of that. And pull your needle through. Or not your needle, your thread. It's getting late and I'm getting tired, can you tell? Okay, now we're going to pick up a 15 O seed bead, an 11 O seed bead, and a 15 O seed bead onto our needle, like so. We're going to go from this column into this column and go down all 6 beads. And pull this embellishment over the top. This does a couple of things. It makes it cute. and it also covers your thread on the top because this is quite a thready stitch. We go through it several times, so we're covering that up. Now we're going to pick up a 15-0 seed bead, an 11-0 seed bead, and a 15-0 seed bead. We're coming out of this column here. We're going to go into this column here, and we're going to exit the third 8-0 seed bead. So right in the middle between our two embellishments here, we're going to exit. Pull this embellishment over the bottom of our unit, like so. It makes it a nice pretty unit. And then we're going to go down the first 3 seed beads here and pull our thread through. Now I'm going to start with a clear here. So no, actually I'm going to go ahead and, how do I want to do this? Maybe I do want to do a, yeah, I'll do a clear here. So you can think of how you want to do it. You can do it like checkerboard-ish, or you can do your embellishments several different ways. Let's see. So I do want to go ahead and put in a clear one here first. So I'm going to pick up a 15-0, a clear, and a 15-0. Just decide on how you want to do your color patterning and go for it. So now I'm going to go back into these 3 8-0s that I started in here. Right there. And then I'm going to go into the 3 next to the 3 I just embellished. And I'm going to pick up a 15-0, go through my crystal, put my thumb over that crystal there and just pull this 15-0 down into place, give it a little tug, make sure it's nice and tight and everything looks good, because once you set your stitch you can't tighten those crystals, so make sure they're nice and tight. And then I'm going to go back into these 3 here. Now the thing is, I need to get back down to these bottom ones, so I have to go through all 6 of these here. And then I'm going to pick up a 15-0, a rose color, and a 15-0, and I'm going to put this crystal on. So I'm going to go back into these 3 that I just came through. Pull my crystal down, push it over a little bit, and then go into the 3 next to the 3 I just put that crystal onto, and pull my thread through. Make sure my embellishment doesn't have a bunch of thread sticking out and it's all weird looking. I want it to look good at this point. And then I'm going to come through that crystal and pick up a 15-0. I'm going to pull this 15-0 down while holding onto the crystal and pop it into place. And then pick up a 15-0 seed bead, and then I am going to go back through all 6 of these beads on this side. If I can get through all 6 of these beads, which I can. Excuse me. Pull my thread all the way through, like so, and then I'll do my last little embellishment with my seed beads after I get my 15-0s all arranged nice and pretty like this. Then I'll pick up a 15-0, an 11-0, and a 15-0, and I will go from this column into this column. And try to go down all 6 beads, making sure you don't miss any. You may have to kind of fiddle your needle around a little bit just because they get kind of pulled around and they are at funny angles. They're not too full of thread yet, even though we've put a lot of thread in here. They're still easy to pass through. They're just laying funny, so you just have to fiddle around in there. 15-0, 11-0, and 15-0. onto my needle. And then I'm going to cross over from this one to this column and just go up 3 beads, like so. And then I will go down into the next 3 beads right here. And I will begin my next embellishment. And I will go ahead and start with my rose color. So basically, is that how I want to do that? Yeah, I guess that's how I want to do that. So I'll go ahead and put my rose on. I was originally going to make sure that no matter what color I had, I was going to use the other color, but that doesn't seem to be what's happening. So make whatever patterning you want, but I'm going to go ahead and start with my rose color again. What I had in my mind's eye is not going to happen, but that's okay. I think this is going to be pretty anyway. So 15-0, crystal 15-0, and then, excuse me. Okay, it's getting late. Things are getting weird. I'm going to pull this crystal through, cross over, go through the next column, put my 15 O's on, and continue embellishing all the way down to this last one. Once we get there, we will be back. So just continue embellishing the way I showed you how to embellish these. Move into your next units. Make sure you put on your last little embellishment of the seed beads, because that's what finishes off your units and makes them look like individual units and covers all the thread. So go ahead and continue doing your embellishments until we get all the way down to here. And we'll be back. Okay, so as you can see, I have done all of my embellishment all the way to the middle here. Now, in my original, I made a small one just to get my original idea out, and then I'm changing it as I'm doing this, so I'm kind of designing this one, but this is my original idea. In the original one, I just did the embellishment as we've been doing all along on the bottom here. Now, if you want to add a little pizzazz to it, you can add a little crystal, and I'm going to show you how to do that. If you do not want to add a crystal, just do your regular embellishment, move on to your next unit, just as you've been doing all along. But if you want to do an embellishment, this is about 15 millimeters long and about 7 millimeters wide. I'm going to add it. It's a top drilled crystal. So I'm going to show you how to put that on in case you want to. If you don't want to, like I said, you don't have to. So let's get close here. Now I am coming out of the third bead here after putting on this embellishment on the bottom here. So I did my regular embellishment and I came out of this third bead, so I can now go into these 3 beads. And I'm going to go into these 3 beads and I'm going to put my crystals on like I normally would. Excuse me. So I'm going to pick up a 15-0 and I am going to pick up a clear crystal, and I'm going to pick up a 15-0, and I am going to go back into the other side of the 3 crystals, just like we've been doing all along. Then hop over to the set right next to it, and go into those 3. Pick up a 15-0, go into the crystal. Excuse me, my voice is going away. I apologize. Allergies. And then I'm going to pick up another 15-0, go back into these 3 crystals here, and then I'm going to cross over. I'm coming out of this column here. Let's get a little closer. So I'm going to go down into these 6 now. I'm going to go all the way down to the bottom. And I am going to put on my bottom crystal. So I will need a 15-0, and then I'm going to use my rose color and a 15-0 and do the same thing. Go back through these 3 here. cross over, go into these 3, and as you can see, I just kind of manipulate my needle through the best I can at angles. Bend my unit back a little bit, whatever I need to do to get into my beads. And then I pick up a 15-0, go into the crystal, pick up a 15-0, go back into these 3. I'm actually going to go through all 6 to get myself to the top of my unit, and then I will do the embellishment on the top. So I'll pick up a 15-0 and, oops, let me get back into frame here, and an 11-0. Actually, let me rearrange my camera so I have a little more room. There we go. So 15-0, an 11-0, and a 15-0, and then I'm coming out of this column here. I'm going to hop into the column right next to it, go all the way down to the bottom of that column. So all 6 beads. And this bead on the bottom is a little tipped, so I'm going to have to work my way through, trying to get through it because it's in a funny position. Okay, that'd be a better way. Alright, let's go through all 6 of them. There we go. Sometimes the beads get pulled at funny angles and you have to just kind of manipulate around them. The beads are definitely not too full of thread, so don't worry about that. It's just the angles, so you just have to mess with it. Now, if you want to just do like this piece, just go ahead and put your 15-0, 11-0, 15-0, sew back up through these 3 beads, and then begin your embellishment here. If you want to put on a crystal, then what you're going to do is you're going to pick up an 11-0 and then an 8-0. And then you're going to pick up 3 15-0s and drop them down like so. And then you're going to pick up your crystal, put it on there, pick up 3 more 15-0 seed beads, and then you're going to go into just the 8-0 seed bead right here and pull. As you pull, it'll all come back together if you pulled it apart like I just did, so don't worry about that too much. Then pick up an 11-0 seed bead and go through these 3 8-0s on the column here. And turn this so it's flush, like so. And then I'm going to cross over and sew back through this again just to reinforce it so that it lays nice and it doesn't do a bunch of weird stuff, and the crystal doesn't cut through my thread. So I'm coming out of this column right here. I'm going to cross over into the column right next to it. Just these 3 bottom beads. Now these are the ones that are laying funny, so give me a second to get through them. And then I'm going to pull my thread through, and I'm just going to sew through my embellishment again. So I'll go through the 11-0 here and the 8-0. Then I'll go through these 3 15-0s, which again, I pull things pretty tightly, so give me a second to get through it. If you come through the 15-0s as you come through the 8-0, it'll be a little easier. Okay, come on, there we go. I grab that 15-0, and then I'm just going to go through the crystal, up through these 3 15-0s, through this 8-0, and through this 11-0, and then I'm going to come back up these 3 beads here. Now I'm going to go ahead and sew into the next 3 beads on top here. like so. Make sure everything looks good before I set my thread. That's what that looks like. Turned out pretty. Now I'm going to sew into my next column of 3 right here, and I will begin my embellishments just like I've been doing all along. So go ahead and do this side now, putting on your embellishments exactly as we've been doing all along, and when we get to the end here, we'll be back. Okay, so I have finished my entire embellishment on this side, and I am coming out of my last column here, and I need to put my 15-0, 11-0, 15-0 on either side. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and cut this tail down. I'm just going to leave a tiny tag, and then I'm going to pick up my 15-0, 11-0, and 15-0, and I'm going to go ahead and sew through the columns here and put my embellishment on the bottom to cover my thread for my square stitch. So I'm coming out of this row, I'm going to go into this row and up all 6 of these beads. Like so. And then I'm going to pick up a 15-0, an 11-0, and a 15-0, and I'm going to sew back down into this side all the way through all of them, like so, and pull that down. Now, I need to tie this off completely. So what I'm going to do is I'm coming out of this column right here. I'm going to go ahead and skip over into this column. Now the 15-0 is right there, so I have to go underneath it. And then I'm going to exit right in between the 2 sets of 3 in my square stitch. And then I'm going to grab this thread bridge right in between. I'll show you. Whoops, too close. Come on, focus, focus, focus. There we go. Now I'm going to grab this thread stitch right here in between this unit and this unit. There's a thread stitch, a thread bridge, and I'm going to tie a knot on it. And then I'm going to sew back down all 6 of these beads. Okay, I hope I was in frame. So I tied a knot on this thread bridge here, and now I'm going to go down into the next set of 3 and the set of 3 underneath it. So I'm just going to sew into all 6 of these beads on this next unit, like so. And then I'm going to skip over and sew up these 3 here, right here. Make sure your thread goes down underneath your embellishment on the bottom so you don't see it. And then grab this thread bridge and tie another knot. So it's right in between these 2 units here. There's a thread bridge. It's a pretty obvious one. Just go underneath it, tie a knot, and then go down a few more beads. I'm just going to go down all 6 of these. Right here. And I am going to cut off my thread. Now I'm going to turn this over. I'm going to cut that a little bit shorter. It's a little too long. And I am going to burn that down like so. Tuck it in. And then this is what you should have. Now, for this part to do up around the neck, we're going to do a little bit differently. I didn't tell you in the beginning. Perhaps I will. I'll correct that. But you're going to need 2 needles now. So what you're going to do is you're going to put about a wingspan of thread onto 2 needles. Put one end on one needle and the other end of the thread on the other needle. So cut a nice long piece, thread both ends into needles, and we'll be back. Okay, so I have threaded 2 needles with 1 piece of thread. And make sure as you bring your thread through the needle that you put the 2 needles together, and the part that you have threaded through the needle should be about the same length as each other. So what I'm talking about is after you thread the needle, of course you have a tail on the other side of the needle here. Let's back off so you can see what I'm talking about. This tail that comes through the needle, you want that to be about the same length on both needles. So put your 2 needles together, look at it, and as you can see with mine, they're pretty much the same length. Now, a wingspan is probably going to be a lot more than we need, but I wanted to make sure, since I'm designing this, that we have plenty of thread. Now what we're going to do is we are just going to bring one of these needles through. So I'm going to use my right needle. I've parked my left needle over here, and I'm just going to take my right needle and I'm going to come up through this 11-0 seed bead right on the very end of my unit. So you can see what I'm doing. So that 11-0 that's between the 15-0s that we put on the top of every unit, you're going to go through that 11-0. And then you're going to draw your needles together, back off, put your needles together, and then just center your thread on that bead, like so. Now we are going to make our part that goes up around our neck. So what we're going to do, on your right needle, you're going to pick up 3 15-0s and an 8-0. So let's do this. We're going to pick up 3 15-0s onto our needle, if I can pick it up, and then an 8-0, like so. And I'm going to drop this down to my piece. And of course, I've got a needle that doesn't want to let the 15-0s drop, so let me do that again. See if I can find. Okay, so I've got 3 15-0s there and 1 8-0, and I'm going to drop that down. I'll get closer in a minute. I just want you to see what I'm actually doing. Now I'm going to pick up 3 15-0s on my left needle and drop them down. And then I'm going to take my left needle and go through this 8-0 seed bead, just straight up through it. So let me get you down here. I'm just going to pick up this 8-0, and I'm going to put my needle straight through it, like so, and I'm going to pull my thread through. So what I've done is I've just made a loop, and both threads are coming through the 8-0 straight through. Instead of the bead laying on its side, it's laying straight up. So, okay, so now we're coming out of this 8-0 seed bead with both of our threads. So what you're going to do is you're going to pick up an 11-0 on each needle. And then you can either drop them down or you can just scoot them down a little bit. And then we're going to pick up a series of beads onto both needles. On your left needle, you're going to pick up one more bead than on your right, and I'll show you what I mean. So we've got 11-0s on either side, and then we're going to pick up, I'm going to use my clear crystals. I'm going to pick up, let me back off so you can see what I'm doing. I am going to pick up a bicone and an 11-0 on my right needle, and I'm just going to go ahead and continue doing my whole series on my right needle. So I'm going to do a 11-0 bicone, 11-0, and then I'll do a bicone and an 11-0, and I will continue doing bicones and 11-0s until I have 4 of each. So this is what we have. On my left side, I have 11-0 bicone, 11-0 bicone, 11-0 bicone, 11-0 bicone, 11-0. So you're going to have 5 11-0s and you're going to have 4 bicones. You're going to start and end with an 11-0. Now you're going to do the same thing on your left hand thread, except for on this one, you're going to pick up 5 bicones and 6 11-0s. So I've already got one 11-0. I'm going to pick up a bicone and then an 11-0 And let me back off again. It's the bad part about working with two threads. You can't see what I'm doing. So I have a bicone 11-0, a bicone 11-0, bicone 11-0. Nope, that didn't work. So there's 3, and then a bicone 11-0, bicone 11-0. So this is what you should have on your left hand thread. You should have, whoop, okay, now you can really see my mess. Alright, so you should have 5 bicones and 6 11-0s. Start with an 11-0 and end with an 11-0. Now put both of your needles together, grab an 8-0 seed bead, and go through the 8-0 seed bead with both of your needles. Now my needles are bent, so let's see if I can actually get them both through, like so, and then just draw this all the way down to your beads on your piece. Like that. And that's what you should have. Now we're going to continue making the same thing, except for this time we're going to go with 8 crystals, and on this side 9 crystals with 11-0s in between. So let me back off a little bit more, and just go ahead and pick up an 11-0 and a crystal, and 11-0 and a crystal, and just continue on your right hand string. Pick up 8 of your crystals with 11-0 seed beads in between. Start with an 11-0, end with an 11-0. On your right hand string, pick up 9. Start with an 11-0, end with an 11-0, and have 9 crystals with the seed beads in between them. And once you have done that, we will be back. Okay, so I have 8 crystals with 11-0s in between. Started with 11-0, ended with 11-0. Then I have 9 crystals with the 11-0s in between, starting and ending with 11-0s. And now I'm going to pick up an 8-0 seed bead, and I am going to pass it through both needles straight through the 8-0 and bring it down, like so. And then just separate your threads and give it a little, separate them on the right sides here, don't twist them, and then give it a little tug so that it's nice and straight. And then we're going to do that one more time. Do your 9 crystals, and 9 on the outside, 8 on the inside. So right thread 8 crystals, left thread 9 crystals, bring your 8-0 seed bead down again, and then we will be back. Okay, so as you can see, I've made my third section. Now I am aiming for about an 18-19 inch necklace. If you want a longer necklace than that, you can make another section, and it doesn't have to be as long as this section. It can be the same length as this one. So you can make another short one if you want. You can make a longer one. Just make sure that your inside strand has one less than your outside strand to continue having kind of a loop look. When you get to where you are ready, then you will want to separate your strands, making sure that your threads are not crossed. So this thread is coming out this side, this thread is coming out this side, to maintain the shorter strand on the inside and the longer strand on the outside, to give it that pretty little drop look, the little looped look on the outside. Now, we still have both of our threads. Now, you're going to pick up an 8-0. I've already picked up my 8-0, put it on here, and now we're going to pick up an 8-0 on the right side, an 8-0 on the left side, and drop them down. And then we're going to pick up an 8-0 on one needle, push it down to your thread, and then go through it with the other needle straight across, like so. So we're making a unit of right angle weave here. Bring these down and straighten them up, because they're going to want to lay all weird and freaky.
So let's see, we got them nice and neat here in a nice little
So after you
unit.
straighten up your little right angle weave
Unit like this, we are going to pick up 2 11-0 seed beads and then another 8-0 and drop that down. And then on your other thread, go ahead and pick up 2 11-0 seed beads and come up through the 8-0 seed bead and pull. Make sure to keep everything nice and neat like so.
It looks like this. And then we are going to
Grab our clasping and we're going to bring both threads, put the needles together, we're going to bring both threads through the loop of the clasp. So I'm using my right clasp here, or my round clasp. Don't ask me where that right came from. And then I'm going to separate my needles and I'm going to go back down into the 8-0 with my right needle. I'm going to go back down into the 8-0 and the 2 11-0s underneath it. And then I'm going to go back down into the 8-0 underneath with my left.
So I'm going to go back down into the 8-0 with my left needle now.
Then I'm going to cross my needles in this 8-0. So I'm going to take my right needle and go through the 8-0 here, and my left needle and go through the 8-0 here. And since I have such a long thread, maybe I take back wanting to make it shorter. What I'm going to do is I'm going to sew all the way back down and tie off down here, and then I'm going to take my other needle and sew all the way back down and tie off. That way I have a double thread running through my strands here, and it's going to make it much stronger. So
I'm coming out of this 8-0 here after putting on my clasping,
and now I'm going to come into this side 8-0, and then I'm going to go down into the 8-0 underneath it, and then straight down into all my beads, and I'm going to sew through them carefully, making sure that I don't miss anything. And you don't want to bunch things, so just pull your thread through gently. And then just go back in and just continue sewing all the way down on these inside beads here, this inside strand. Continuing without bunching anything. And then once you get down into your 8-0, just go through it and continue down. So continue doing that,
and then we'll get down to the bottom and I'll show you how to tie it off, and then we'll do the same thing with this strand.
And then we'll do the exact same thing on the other side of our necklace. So go ahead and work on that and we'll be back.
Okay, so I have sewn all the way through until I am coming out of the 15-0 seed bead on this side, right down here. I'm coming out of it.
I'm going to go into the 11-0 on my original units that I made of my square stitch, and I'm going to go through that 11-0, and then I'm going to go down through the that's supposed to be a 15-0, but it looks like an 11-0 to me. I must have messed up when I picked up my bead.
Anyway, go through that 15-0 and a couple of the
square stitch down below it. I'm going to turn this over so you can see what I'm doing. This is the square stitch. I'm going to go down one more bead here. Actually, I'm going to go down all 6 of them. Right here. Pull it. Make sure you didn't pull anything out of whack, that it still looks pretty up here, and that it still moves correctly. And then just grab that thread bridge between this 15-0 and
the
the 8/0 in the square stitch. Grab that little thread bridge, tie a knot, and then you can sew through the 15/0 and 11/0, 15/0 here, and up through a few beads in the square stitch on this side. And just exit. Try not to stab yourself like I just did. Cut your thread off, and then you can burn that down whenever you have a minute. And then we're going to go back up
to the top of our piece.
Okay,
So on this side, we're coming out. This is our other needle,
and we have one more thread, and we're coming out of the 8/0 seed bead there. Go ahead and sew down the 8/0 seed bead on that side, and then go ahead and sew down the middle 8/0 seed bead and begin working your thread
all the way down. Again, go through your 15 O's and tie off.
And once you have done that, of course, you can tie
off a little higher too if you feel like this is getting too full down here and you can't sew through it. You can tie off in this section or something else.
Would be better, however, if you could come down and come through the square stitch and tie off. So go ahead and sew through,
reinforcing the outside loops on your necklace. And then after you have finished that,
go ahead and do the exact same thing. Get another piece of long thread,
go through your 11/0 seed bead and do this side of the necklace exactly like you did this side of the necklace. And then put on your other side of your clasp, like so. If you feel like you need 2 8/0 seed beads to go through your clasping, which I don't think you will, this is narrow enough, then you can do that. That would be the only change. Other than that, do exactly what you did on this side, sew back through, tie off, and we'll be back.
Okay, so I've sewn all the way down on this side, and what I've decided to do is, since there's already a thread through there, I am just going to go through this 8/0 and these 15/0s here. Just show you how I'm going to tie this off. And then I'm going to go through this 11/0
here on my original units. So let me get you close so you can see what I'm doing.
Right here. So I'm coming out of the 15/0s on this side after securing the outside. And then I'm just going to go through this 11/0 here. And then I'm going to go through this 15/0 right here. And right between this 8/0 and my stitch here, I'm just going to go ahead and tie off on the thread bridge between the 8/0 and the 15/0. Making sure to keep my thread down between the beads, like so. And then I'll just go through those 3 and I will cut off my thread.
That way you don't have to worry about sewing through that unit so much more,
because I get kind of concerned about that. After a while it'll just kind of bunch up and look weird. So now I'm going to cut this off, and I will find my tag here, turn it over and burn it down, and then I will do the other side of my necklace exactly the same way. Go ahead and make sure you keep that long thread that we made in the beginning, maybe not a full wingspan but very close to it. And that way you can sew through and reinforce, because I feel as if someone said to me the other day, you're using a really strong thread, why do you have to sew through it and reinforce it? It makes you tired.
Well, don't be fooled. Fireline is very strong,
yes, but it can still be cut by crystal, and you can still break your
necklaces just by a lot of wear. So you want to reinforce everything as much as you possibly can
when you have the opportunity to do it.
That's why I do it, not just to teach you how to make the stitch, but also to teach you how to make pieces that don't fall apart the first time you put them on. Also, if you're selling your pieces, you don't want to get a whole bunch of returned pieces because they're broken. When you can reinforce, reinforce. Okay, let's do this side and we'll come back with the finished
Okay,
piece.
so
I finished my second half of the necklace, put my clasping on, sewed back through, tied off, and this is what my finished product looks like. Turned out really, really pretty. So, like I said, you can change this up. You can do, if you don't have this much crystal, then you could go ahead and do this even in 8 of seed beads. You could do it with little tiny pearls, whatever. But I think with the crystal, it really looks nice. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.